Once upon a time, two boys grew up playing hockey in the village of Terrace, British Columbia. One of them went on to play in the National Hockey League. The other became a comedian. Now, one flies planes and coaches youth hockey. The other is still a comedian and owns newsstands. This is their podcast, Enjoying Orange Slices with Jeff and Ian.
Hello, Jeff. My name's Ian Bagg. It's been 3 days since I've seen you. How's everything?
It's all good. It's all good.
Tell everybody what happened this weekend, Jeff.
Yeah, we had a busy weekend. Lord Bagg came to town, and
that was the busy weekend. That was
it. That was it.
I came to town.
But I think people can put it together. When I say you, they go, okay, that's a lot of work. So it's going to be busy when you have to be around them. So
here's what I'm going to need from you. That's when I drove into town and I said that. Here's what I'm going to need from you.
Yeah. So we had a big wedding. Oldest daughter got married this weekend in magical Nipton, California, just south of Vegas. And we had a lot of fun. We had a lot of friends and family come in. Ian and Cab came in, and a lot of our friends we had people coming in. International destination wedding this weekend. But it was a lot of fun. The weather was great. And then on Saturday and then Sunday, it started blowing like 40 miles, 50 miles an hour. Huge dust storms. Beds as we came back up, because Nipton's about 45 minutes, 50 minutes south of Vegas. So anyways, it was a great weekend. Great to see a lot of people. And I don't know, people out there, you kind of lose track of some of your family members and friends sometimes. And weddings are a great event to bring everyone back together and kind of.
Weddings are fun. They're bringing your side and their side together, and everybody introducing each other and becoming more friends. You know, my favorite part was some people came up and said, I listened to you in the Enjoying Orange Slices, right? And but one of Meg's friends came up and said, I listened to you on Enjoying Orange Slices. And all I could think was, oh no, Meg makes her friends listen to the show.
Yeah. Well, that's how we get about 85 listeners. But
if you want to be my friend, you have to listen to my dad's podcast. Blah, 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 blah.
Yeah. We had some critiques over the weekend on the podcast at the wedding, and of course people have a couple cocktails and they let you really know what they think. So
I sat with the sheriff and Randy for a while, and we talked about it, and the sheriff said, you know what I like about you guys are honest. You're not mean, you're honest. And I like that. And then I sat with Chris and Terry Meyer, the biggest Golden Knights fans ever. And just because I don't own season tickets, the Myers call me a hater of the Golden Knights. They're such a funny couple. Oh my God. They come out. I love when they just come out of the bus, they come out 100 miles an hour, and they're so much fun to be around.
They're the best. They're the best time on 2 feet. I guess it's 4 feet when you combine them. But Chris and Terry Meyer. So a quick story about them. More about Terry than Chris. So Chris's nickname is CFM. So Chris, and then you can put the F in there, and then Meyer is his last name. So you figure out what CFM is all about. But they got their start when Vegas was kind of the Wild West. A lot of these casinos way back when they went to UNLV together, and then they started working their way up through the casino business. Chris ended up working for Las Vegas Hospitality. LVCVA, which is the Las Vegas Convention Visitor Association, which is the group that's, hey, what happens in Vegas stays in Vegas. They got that tagline. And Terry,
which is funny because Chris does not keep things in Vegas. He lets everybody know around the world. So the fact that he's part of what stays in Vegas.
Well, that's kind of part of the unique thing about Vegas. It's a Wild West town turning into just a huge, another big American city, but some great roots to it. And those are part of the roots. And then people, because we're a hockey podcast, they're like, we don't care about your friends. Well, the thing is, where they come in is when the Vegas Golden Knights came in, you needed to have this groundswell of support. And people like Chris and Terry Meyer, and other friends that were at the party were hockey fans, or the wedding before, the Nakaguaras, their whole family. And so you're like, well, what's up with the Golden Knights? Well, everywhere you drive in Vegas, someone's either got a flag, a sticker, or their license plate says Vegas Golden Knights on it. And that is how this kind of team has risen from really the ashes of expansion into this team that's one of the more successful organizations in the league. And I know it bothers some people, but you always talk about, you hear it in elections all the time, the grassroots. Well, what the Golden Knights were able to do when they came to town, and part of it was because of the tragedy of 1 October, was tie into the community and get that grassroots support. And so we had Chris and Terry out there chirping at Ian this weekend because he doesn't talk about the Golden Knights enough.
They love it. I love it. I love it because on the other end, my dad, I talked to my dad before on our way down to Vegas, and he said, "You tell Jeff the Canucks are playing well."
Yeah, well, you tell
so
Gary.
I'm getting on both sides.
I know. Yeah, you tell Gary I'm watching them, and I love what the Canucks are doing. And if Gary listened to the podcast, I know he does. I picked Vancouver 2-3 weeks ago when Millard, our old friend Darren Mallard, was on. I said the Canucks were the team that I was going to keep an eye on and that I was looking forward to seeing this year. And I do believe the Canucks are a playoff team.
There you go.
Now, they need to
find
one
Dad.
more D.
Write it down.
Yeah,
Jeffrey says
I do.
yes.
I do think they are. And the reason is, obviously barring injuries and all that other stuff, but the reason I like the Canucks is Demko, and they've got this young guy by the name of Elias Pedersen, who is just next world. And their top 6 forwards are as good as anybody. Their D, they added Cole, and they added Susie this year, a couple good veteran D-men.
Mm-hmm.
Quinn Hughes has taken another step. So the thing is everybody always needs one more forward and one more D. In Vancouver, if they can get their bottom 6 to compete and chip in some goals, they're competing, but they need a little bit more offense. Vancouver's going to be in a great spot. And Rick Tocchet, if you're going to cheer for any coach in the league, he's the guy you want to cheer for. One of the hard-nosed guy when he played. But the 1 October tragedy that happened in Vegas, where we had just that tragic night.
Mm-hmm.
Arizona, he was a coach in Arizona. He came in after that, and the Knights started opening night against Arizona. And the Knights were all over them. And they ended up winning, I don't know, like 8-2 or 3. And after the game, Tocchet kept his team on the ice to salute the fans along with the Knights. So that tells you all you need to know about that guy. Cheer for Vancouver and cheer for Rick Tocchet. And I think he's creating an identity there where they're going to be able to be competitive and a playoff team for, I would say, the next few years, but it looks the way they're going.
Yeah, I think so too. We'll talk quickly about Vancouver, and then we'll go back to what we were talking about before. It is a hockey podcast. It is a hockey podcast. It is about the NHL, but we talk mostly about Vancouver and Las Vegas. But we talk about our lives and stuff as well. But Garland being moved should give them some sort of cap room, but it also might bring back something that they're really looking for. And I think DeSmith also stabilizes that goaltending thing too. You can give Demko a night off and really be comfortable with him being in that net. I don't know what there out there is to add that isn't really, really young for a defenseman, around.
Well, they'll find a guy. They'll find a guy. They'll pull a guy off waivers, a defenseman, or they'll plug a guy in. Like they just picked up Friedman off waivers.
Do you think they're waiting? Do you think they're waiting for Bear to recover from his injuries? Maybe that's the guy they bring in there, or
it could be. I mean, he's a good kid, and he's
a good kid.
He is a good kid, and you know what? That's part of. I mean, you look at these winning teams; they have good people, and when teams don't have good people, they don't win as much, and then they struggle. Some organizations are just trying to build their way back, and but to get yourself over the hump, I think we've seen it. And I go back St. Louis, Tampa twice, Colorado, and Vegas. If you looked at those and talked to guys that won on those teams, they tell you that those were some of the best dressing rooms and guys they played with. So that's the constant, you're tinkering, right, with your room. You're trying to add the best talent you can, but you're also trying to add the best guys you can. And to kind of finish on Vancouver, if Demko stays healthy, he's as good as there is in the league. I definitely think Demko's a top 5 guy in the NHL. And if things are going really well and they can keep, the shots down against him where he's able to see most of what he's, say 30, 35 shots a game, I think he could be I think he's maybe even capable of being a top 3 guy in the league. That's how good he is. So let's see what
It's
happens.
pretty fantastic.
Well, and just one last thing, Garland, that whole situation, they're going to have they need someone to take on that cap hit, right? And they got a Pedersen, who's an unrestricted free agent at the end of this year. They're going to need to find $10 to $12 million for this guy. So depending on how the season goes, I think they're a playoff team, and I think they should go for it. But they also have to figure out how to do the accounting to keep this guy in their organization, because I don't know if Pedersen's a generational player, but in my view, by the end of the day, he's not going to be far off.
He's not going to be far off.
He's a special player. Yeah.
Let's go back to the wedding for a second. I got to sit and speak with Michael Chason for a bit, who is he is a agent at, is it CAA? Is he at CAA? Where is he at?
Yeah, he's with the
Sports,
Papersant, who I think they just sold that agency, but they have hockey, football, basketball. They're down in LA, is where their head office is. So this is a big operation these guys have.
We got to get him on the podcast because he was so interesting to talk about. I talked to him. It was the first time that I really sat down and talked with him about what he's doing now, and it's really interesting. So they do this thing where they start looking at, right now they're looking starting at 2009 born kids.
Yeah.
And they work with them through the rest of their minor hockey into whether they go junior or college, and then try to get them drafted and then start their professional career. And then he says it takes about 3 more years before they actually start making money off these guys. That is, sports agency is really different than entertainment agency. Entertainment agency is, if you don't make me money within the first 3 months, I'm getting rid of you.
Yeah.
Whereas sports, it's I'm going to wait this 10 years. I'm going to wait this 10 years and hopefully make some money off you.
Tell me how you'd know that in the entertainment business. How would you know?
Because the people I've been through. But it was I think we should get him on as a guest. I'd like to really sit down and talk with what they work with, and they had the huge gambling thing last week that went down, and he says everybody around the league, basically everybody who thought they were next. Because it's young guys that have these accounts that are in the NHL, and you just share things with your friends, which is basically what happened. So they really, it's really like looking out for your client and trying to figure out what they're up to, even if they're not being evil. They may be stupid at times, and you have to. Well,
let's talk about the agency side of it, and then we'll get into the gambling side of it. Okay. So I've been on the ice, or I haven't been on the ice. I was on.
He's been on the ice
years ago. Yeah, I've been on the ice, but we talked about this probably last spring or early summer. I think it was maybe late winter. So I got 3 out of the 4 seasons in there.
Could have been fall.
Yeah, and I might as well throw fall in there if I miss that. So
solstice. Where's during the solstice?
Yeah. Don't forget to turn your clocks back next weekend too, I think. Or maybe that's 2 weekends. So Michael, I went out and watched them practice a couple times with these young guys, and these agencies, what they do is they'll get some kids. And so for this one, we were up in British Columbia, and we had kids coming in. So people that know British Columbia probably know of Vancouver. So a place called Kelowna, about 4.5
people
hours.
know where Kelowna is. Otherwise,
people
is the Florida of Canada,
the Napa Valley of Canada as well.
I don't know.
So they brought kids in from Alberta, brought kids in from Vancouver Island, and the Lower Mainland, which is Vancouver area. They brought kids in from Washington. Okay, and these are kids that they've either signed or they're looking to sign and represent. And they ran them through, I think it was 3 days of practice, and they'll do this when the kids have a break throughout the year, and mostly in the spring and summer, right? Because they're playing now. And so Michael was out there. What's that?
Never the fall.
Never the fall, unless they didn't make a team, then they can get them. But yeah, so these agencies,
that's who they're bringing.
They're not making a team, then you probably don't want them. I don't think they're going to make you a lot of money. But
look, just in case everybody else gets wiped out, we better have a guy that isn't playing.
Yeah. Well, we don't have that guy available, but we got this guy. So you would just fly him around and drop him in when
That's
when
hilarious.
guys go down. Well, we represent this guy, but we got this guy too. So, anyways, they run practices and skills and drills, and they got goalies, they got 4 defensemen, and it was really impressive to watch some of these kids. And they also have not they have both boys and girls. So there's a couple young ladies out there with them that they're, these universities, they're talking to the junior teams, they're talking to universities. And some of these kids are earmarked for possible World Junior Team Canada, or with the young gals, one of them, they were looking at her possibly as being an Olympian for the women's team for Team Canada. So, I guess they probably had, I'm going to say around 15, maybe 20.
Also,
Yeah, it was
now
really
you have to
impressive to watch.
the female side. You also can look at it. The girls can go to college and make money now. They can make money when they're in college. So I'm sure they're looking at them like that. So
yeah. So Michael does that, and he bounces around like he was in Alberta, he was in British Columbia, he was in Michigan doing it. So we'll try and get Michael on one day, but there's a lot more that goes on, and the agency goes and watches these kids, and the kid might have a couple great weekends, and then they get them and they try and work on areas of their game or help them understand the game better. And whether or not all these kids turn out or not, there's a big investment in them before the kids ever sign any kind of contract. And it's really an interesting thing to watch. And Michael's great because he's a young guy and he can connect with these kids maybe a little bit better than someone a little older.
also he comes from a coaching background too. So
yeah, and he grew up in the game. He was floor to ceiling hockey. That's what his whole life was. And so
basement hockey.
Yeah, he understands it. So he's a great guy to have these families represent them, and so we'll try and get Michael on one day.
And by the way, Carrie Ann wanted to bring up the fact that she goes, I can't believe you guys have a hockey term for parties where somebody gets the first star.
Yeah.
She was loving that. She was like, and there was a lot of first stars floating around that night.
Yeah.
So,
well, years ago, we got a T-shirt made up that said "first star" on it because in hockey you got the 3 stars, right? So we're not really interested in second or third stars. We're interested in who can get the first star. And at the wedding, there was a lot of conversation of this. It was very tough to pick a first star, but we got Debbie in there, Debbie Buskus. The Sheriff Buskis's wife, and then some others. But we do the first star T-shirt. And
there was hula hoops there with lights in them, and Susan and Debbie turned into basically pointer dogs, and were taken over by the lights and just twirling them around the whole time. So like,
hey, I'll just say this: if you're gonna have a party out there, and some people might know this, don't worry about drinks and anything else. Just make sure you got hula hoops. And if they have lights in them, you need about 4 to 6 of them. And it's amazing, right? I mean, everybody just loves them. So
for 4 and up, like that's what they, how they have it for 4 and up. No end game.
Yeah. Hey, so did you want to talk a little bit more about that, or did you want to move on to our gambling?
Well, let's tell everybody. We'll just let everybody know. Nice, getting back in the groove. Half an hour show. No guests today, but we're going to start up. Guests are going to be starting to come back in over the November, and we still got Heady Gear. As we why don't you go head over to Heady Gear, get yourself a backpack. Make sure you drag your beers around. Things are good. Go see me on ianbag.com. There it goes. There it's kind of.
I got my really Detroit Red Wings shirt on today. Can't see my Heady Gear backpacks right here. But
you use it a lot.
Representing today, I got my Red Wings shirt on. So,
do you use the Heady Gear bag a lot?
Yeah, I use it, and I'm trying to figure out. I was gonna put the hockey pucks in it, but it's too nice to do that with. So
too nice for the pucks.
It's too nice for the pucks. I got my other bag, but I thought about using Heady's bag for my hockey pucks because take them out when we do lessons, and hockey pucks are like bars of gold. They are like if you find one on
Weight,
like
weight,
you, yeah,
and the way
yeah,
they weigh down a bag, and also the way people just go nuts for them.
yeah, they're like, oh my God, there's a puck. But yeah, so Hetty's bag is always around. Yeah, I use it. But hey, just to keep it to a half hour today, we're going to talk about the gambling situation with
Talk
this
about gambling. Talk
Mr.
about
Pinto,
yeah.
is his name in Ottawa. So he's a free agent, and the NHL caught him gambling, um, and they
I don't know if they caught
suspended him.
him gambling. They caught his account gambling.
Yeah, so yeah, I guess we should be careful on what. But anyways, maybe a little implication. Anyways, he was caught up in the web of this investigation, and the NHL suspended him for 40 games. And I talk to my nephews about this all the time. It's amazing. Like, I'll give you an example. Know your limit, play within it. I just laugh all the time. I'm watching a Canucks game, right? And here they are, nonstop, talking
Yeah.
about how great gambling is because it funds education and it does this and that. I'm like, well, what a great hook. Hey, gamble more. So you know what I mean? Like, so they tie it off. Well, you shouldn't really be gambling, but if you are gambling, this is what you support. And then you got DraftKings, you got all this other stuff that you have in the States. And I'm like, it's only a matter of time when the NHL is, kind of nestled up with the gambling and accepted it as part of the business, that you were going to have something like this. You have it from time to time in all the other sports. There's numerous football players that are caught up in this. You get some basketball and baseball as well. And soccer, I think anything you gamble on, you have to expect there's going to be a certain amount of your players that are going to get caught up in this. And everyone likes a good wager once in a while, or at least most people do.
I
Then,
bet you they do.
yeah, they do. Know your limit, play within it. Every night I
I
see that, I just shake
it's
my head.
hard to have that many commercials and then say to a guy, "Oh, you're in trouble for gambling," that isn't even in the league. So, like, he's not in the league right now.
Yeah, so
He's not signed.
it's not a matter of whether he's good enough to be in the league. He totally is. He's holding out right now, trying to get a contract. Well, now
No, right, but if you're not
I shouldn't say
like
he's holding out. He's unrestricted free agent, isn't
he's
he? Or
unrestricted, he's trying to get signed,
restricted?
but
He's
he's
restricted.
restricted.
Yeah.
He was restricted. But what I'm saying is, if you're not signed, they shouldn't be able to punish him until he's signed.
Well, and then we talked about this, and it's from his account, and maybe it was from past years. I don't know. So I guess you could look at it and say, well, he isn't a part of any team right now, but Ottawa owns his rights,
Mm.
right? So
True. It's so weird. It's so weird with when it comes to like stuff like the owning the rights, blah blah blah. Yeah, I get it. Yeah, I get it. It's not like being hired or not hired. It's there's a lot more layers than just it's not nothing's ever simple like that.
well, don't you think it's odd that in the NFL, like if they have an injury, it's a lot more specific than the NHL. The NHL is like, oh, upper body, lower body. So you get a 50-50.
Yeah.
They cut you right in half. And I was like, they're adding all of this revenue into the league, and this gambling is going on, which, I mean, it is what it is. But I'm like, I thought by now that they would have had to be a lot more specific on injuries, because that's the big thing in sports, right? Especially hockey. You can't say boo. Your arm might be ready to fall off, but you better not let anybody know that it is. And so
Mhm.
with the gambling coming in, I thought because there's so much money involved in that they'd have to be a little bit more, pinpoint the area a bit more.
I'm
Uh,
sure they're fighting for it. I'm sure they're fighting for that to be more specific and
mhm.
let know, because all the other sports they do. I don't gamble on any of the games. Do you gamble on any of the games?
No, I don't. And you know what? I mean, I haven't even put a football bet down. I used to play, like, I used to love to bet the NFL games when I first moved to Vegas, and then over the years, I don't gamble that much at all. Um, I don't know. I don't know if
You
it's a
just wait for your
novelty
mom to come
thing
down
or
and play some deuces.
what's that?
You just wait for your mom to come down and play some deuces when
Oh
you're
yeah, I
picking her
play
up.
Deuces Wild. That's what I'll do. But we didn't even go to the casino this time when she came down. Um, we had a lot of stuff obviously going on, but
She's too busy buying your Crocs.
oh yeah, my mom bought me some Crocs. Yeah.
Doesn't matter how old you get, people. Your
Yeah.
mom's your mom.
That's right. Hey, you know what? My mom told me years ago, son, you never stop being a parent. So I felt like, okay, like I felt like after I got my Crocs, I had to go clean up my room. But yeah, she bought me, and then we were doing slices last week, and that's what it was. My youngest daughter Molly was trying to call me to ask me what color Crocs I wanted. There was black, blue, and gray. So I said, just whatever you come
Gray.
back with, I don't care. So they came back with gray, and they put a Golden Knights little pin in the bottom of it, and I'm like, the Knights have been unbelievable for the community, but I do try to be Switzerland when it comes to being given an honest take on what's going on. Do I like to see them do well? 100%, I like to see them do well, but I don't run around with Knights flags and stickers on my car. If I had to go back and start anywhere, I'd have to start with the Red Wings. But yeah,
Right.
I mean, they've been great. So I got my steel gray Crocs to match everyone else in Vegas.
You're kind of like me. You're like me. You'll wear two different teams at the same time.
Well, I Flats gets me some Winnipeg swag. I
Yeah.
love that. And I mean, if I have to go back, I mean, deep down, I grew up cheering for the Canucks. Back.
I like your face during that.
Yeah.
I have to go.
Yeah, I mean, but Jim Robson, I was thinking about him.
Terry and Chris Meyer they just the 9/11 just pulled up in front of their house to resuscitate them after you said you cheer for the Canucks. Where?
I do, but there's other teams. I mean, if you got friends, you like to see other teams do well. And actually, talking about other teams, I'll talk about a couple teams we don't talk about a lot.
Okay.
Philly came in this week, and it'd be safe to say that Philly's kind of in a rebuilding phase. I mean, Torts is a character, right? John Tortorella, their coach, and he's back there. He looked like he's almost wearing like a sweater vest back there. Like, you don't see the coaches dressed in their suit and tie.
Yeah.
He's back there. Like, I thought he came from pregame skate with his tracksuit on, and you could see his tie because he doesn't care, right? He's been there and done that. But they play really hard. And the only thing I think Philly that kept them, they really gave the Knights all they could handle, and actually lost in regulation, but deserved better. And my thing with Philly is they play really hard. Obviously, need a bit more goal scoring.
You went to that game, right? You went to that game?
No, I didn't go to that game. Just watched it.
Oh.
And then last night, Montreal came to town, and they were saying the Canadians, that's the best game they played in 2 years. And if Montreal continues on that trajectory of what they showed last night, I would say in the next 2 to 3 years, you're going to be seeing them become.
Problem with Montreal, they're on a trajectory, but they hit a lot of turbulence and then have to level out and then go up again. That's I don't know. I'm gonna say five years for them.
Yeah, I think we could.
They got like, don't they have? Sorry to interrupt you, but don't they also Carey Price is long term, right?
And yeah, he's got a little ways to go on that, I think. But
so is what's his face though? That they got from Nashville. He's on a long term, and like if he retires, somebody gets fired. Excuse my language. Somebody gets right. Somebody.
Okay. Well, you know what? Because we're pinpoint all of we're so laser focused on getting the right thing. Weber was traded to Vegas.
Oh, he was?
Vegas traded his contract to Arizona.
So, but aren't they don't they haven't they got a bunch of money held on him?
You know what? I mean, he's on long-term injury. So I think Vegas ended up, what ended up happening is they traded him off long-term injury. So then Vegas takes him because they'll pay him, right, to be on long-term injury. Then they traded him to Arizona,
which has every dead contract in the world. Because
I think Arizona needed to meet the floor of the cap. But here's where Montreal is going to be okay. They're so young. If these guys don't make a lot of money yet, So if they can hit their stride and get in the playoffs in the next couple of years and start becoming a contender before they have to start paying all these guys, like their D last night, super young. They've got some gritty forwards still around, like Monahan's there, Gallagher's there, and Josh Anderson's there. These guys are good players. They're a big part of that team, but their young D really impressed me. And a couple times, Vegas got on the other side of them and worked them a bit. But overall, I thought Montreal was just top to bottom.
How close are they to the? How close are they to the top to the top of the
Montreal
money? Yeah.
The cap.
Yeah.
Well, just remember, if Carey Price is there, he makes 10 million a year, but he goes on long-term injury, so that doesn't count against the cap. So people forget this. They always talk about these teams hiding cap money. The year Montreal lost to Tampa in the finals, Montreal had more contracts and more salary than Tampa Bay did, because everyone talked about Kucherov coming back and he didn't start playing until the playoffs. Montreal had more money on long-term injury and more salary cap money than Tampa Bay did. So they
I'm wondering. Reason I bring it up, I'm wondering if that might be a nice spot for Garland to end up.
He'll end up somewhere. He's an interesting one because I really liked him in Arizona. It hasn't worked out in Vancouver, and I thought he was going to help turn things around in Vancouver. It didn't happen. So, or not to this point. So, who takes a guy like Connor Garland, because he
gives you speed,
tricky, he's feisty, he's a really smart player. Defensively, he's not maybe what you're looking for all the time, but who picks him up? Like, he's playing on the third line in Vancouver now. Like, when they picked him up, he was a second, first line guy. So, I don't know. Maybe somebody like Philly takes a flyer on him. Maybe you're right, Montreal, because what I saw with Montreal and Philly is just not a shortage of chances, but guys that can put it in the net when they get the opportunity. And if those two teams can find some goal scoring.
Who's the leader in Montreal? No, in Philadelphia. I haven't watched them yet this year.
Well, you know what? There's a young guy named Tippett that they got from Florida last year that I thought he was really good. The Cates is another kid that really impressed me the other night. A lot of guys just work really hard up and down that line. And then another guy like Travis Konechny, who any team could use. So, he might be a guy to look for. I'm not sure if they re-sign him long-term or not, but if Philly starts to fade, look for a guy like Travis Konechny to get moved. And he is another version of an Alex DeBrincat. Maybe not quite the same goal scoring on that level, but he's really a gritty player and a right-handed shot that I think could help a lot of teams. But if you're in Philly right now and you're in Montreal, you're looking forward to what's going on today and trying to find a way to keep yourself in the mix and try and snag a playoff spot if you can. And if those two teams play like they did this week, what I saw here in Vegas, they're going to be a handful this year. And not everyone can make the playoffs, right? I mean, only half the teams do, but they're going to change. Yep.
Did you know that when it was the original, I think up to 16, all the teams made it. And now they've still got the same amount of teams making it, but have doubled the size of the league.
Well, when I was around, we had 21, I think, and 16 made it. But you know what they used to do, which was kind of cool, and I know why they don't do it anymore, but one would play 16, two would play 15, and so on. But that could end up having the Canucks, say, or the Sharks.
But I like that. I like that. I like the 1 versus 16. I think, that it's the whole thing of just get in.
Well, it is, but here's where the issue is. Let's just take
you and your issues.
Yeah, we're only doing 30 minutes, so we can't talk about
and we're already at 35.
Okay, so but here let's just use this as an example. 1 and 16 would be great, but let's just say 1 and 16 is the Canucks and the Islanders, and 2 and 15 is the Kings and the Devils. I mean, and then the TV would love that, but or Edmonton and Calgary, throw them in there.
By the way, the parade's back. The parade's back on in Edmonton.
Yeah, the parade. That's right. After the Heritage Classic, we haven't even talked about that yet. But what I'm getting at is, you play these guys all year and they build it up. You have rivalries built in. People in the East Coast want to see the Islanders and the Rangers, the Devils and the Rangers, or Devils Islanders. Just like out here, there's a big appetite, to see, say, a Calgary Edmonton in the playoffs, and/or LA Vegas has had a really nice rivalry till a year or two ago. And then LA's on their way back. So,
but if you did that 1-16, there might be some sort of like games played where, like, we got to win this game, tie this game, so we can get ourselves into this spot to play that team. There might be some of that going on outside gamesmanship.
Yeah, there could be, but I think the biggest thing that they're trying to build these rivalries, and they're trying to protect against cross-country travel in the playoffs. And so it's great because,
well, the first thing they did was try to get rid of the draft. That's like, having everybody go to the draft. They've gotten rid of that, right?
Well, they're trying to do it like the NBA.
Right. It seems like it's pretty close to being done. And I'm just like, I think after we went to the draft, I think it's just big time fun for the fans and the city. And I think it's a mistake to go that way.
Yeah. I think there's a lot of,
I know we're all over the place.
And you know what? It's one of the cool things that stood out of being at the draft again, because I haven't been at a draft in quite a while. But you and I were walking around in the Bridgestone Arena, Nashville, Tennessee, and all the families and the brothers and sisters and the aunts and uncles and the mums and dads, all dressed up, look fantastic. They're young boys getting ready to be drafted. Now, sometimes the kids slide in the draft a bit, and that's really hard to watch and really hard in the families. But in the end, the experience, I think, for the vast majority of the families that go to the draft and the kids is amazing. And it's kind of cool for the fans that go too. They get to go see these kids, like the big Russian guy that Arizona drafted, that we ran into outside the draft, walking around with his uniform after. And he was surprised we knew who he was. But
he was shocked and surprised.
Yeah. So it was his name's Butt, isn't it? Butt. That's who
I said. Bag and butt together.
Yeah. So yeah. So I don't know. I think the NHL.
My mom says my favorite part of this podcast is when you say things and Jeff just rolls his eyes. And you just
yeah. I'm like, oh, it's a nice day out there.
But I do think I think it's you gotta do something that includes the fan, because if you don't do things like that to include the fans, it's a long 5 months off.
It sure is. And
so you got to give them things.
Well, and I'm just looking
give them treats.
You got to give them yeah, you gotta differentiate yourself. And maybe, I don't know, I mean, the NFL draft was here in Vegas a couple of years ago.
Huge.
And people loved it. And they had thousands of people downtown. Like, they shut down Broadway in Nashville, their main drag, where all the bars are and all the entertainment. They had a live band out in front of the draft. I mean, you got to create a buzz. So anyways, we'll see what they do. I'm sure it's got a lot to do with economics.
Absolutely, it does. And that fart noise in the background was Pearl. Shall we wrap this up? Shall we get going?
Yeah, well, let's just talk. You know what? I was just
apparently not
to see if there was any more information. Adam Johnson.
Well, that's the one thing we want to do mention that. Go ahead.
Yeah, I would just, you know what? Hockey community lost one of theirs this week. Adam Johnson suffered an injury on the ice, playing in Nottingham, England. I played with Pittsburgh, and you just have to go online or look up anything on where you can get any hockey information, and the players that played with him and the people that knew him talk about what a great person and guy he was. So just want to send our condolence out to the families and of Adams, and it's just a shame. I mean, we it's a rough and tumble game. Once in a while, injuries happen, and And so, unfortunately, was an injury that Adam couldn't recover from, and playing in England. So our hearts go out to his family and friends and relatives.
Terrible. And I instantly thought about Clint Malarchuk when that happened, who we've had on this show, and I'm sure it affects him. So
Yeah, well, Clint, Clint was on the show and he talked about what happened is it was a skate cut in the neck area, and Clint had a very similar injury. And what happened for Clint, the trainer had been a medic in Vietnam, and part of it too is being able to get out there immediately to help.
he also said where he was. He was
Yeah.
next to the gate, everything. Yeah.
Yeah, it all lined up for Clinton. I mean, he'd be way better to talk about than us, but Clint, yeah, had a very similar injury, and yeah, it's just crazy, and it's tragic. So
Yeah. Might see some. I don't know if you'll see the equipment changes. Do you think you're going to see the turtlenecks? Basically, is what.
yeah, well, I mean, I know the goalies and net guards with youth hockey was going, and the goalies were, you see those plastic shields over those neck. That's more for pucks and that, but it's also, to help. They're down on the ice fighting for pucks to keep their neck area safe, and so they don't take a puck in the neck. But I think they have to look at it. I mean, they looked at the Achilles. Once in a while, you get a skate blade over the back of someone's heel, and they put those socks that a bunch of the
Kevlar.
Canucks were wearing them, yeah, a few years ago after that happened. So
Yeah.
um,
It's sad. It's sad. Anyways.
well,
You want to do shout outs or how
sure.
we
Would
want
you want to start us off this week, or do you want me to start us off?
I can start us off. I want to give a shout out. I want to give a shout out to our dog walker who takes care of our dogs while we're gone. I know me walking these three maniacs is nuts. And she comes into the house and she takes care of Lou, Pearl, and Dr. Henry Wong, the giant cockster himself. But big shout out to Robin for taking care of her for three days. They love her. It's pretty. She forgot something and she had to come back to the house, and they just went nuts. They're like, "Oh, Karen and Ian are going away again." So that's what they thought. There's gonna be more snacks. I don't know what they do. I guess she eats gluten-free snacks with them the whole time they're here or something. Anyways, big shout out to Robin. Thanks for taking care of our dogs.
Okay. Well, so I got a couple shout outs because I know, well, first of all, I know how hard it is to walk the dogs because I took them all three of them down there one morning when Ian was on the road, and I got all tangled up. And the one girl looks at me, she goes, "Are you okay?" I didn't make it 5 feet on, and I don't do the boardwalk. Ian's got sand not too far away. I'm like, you know what? If I'm picking up off their dogs, I'm walking them on the sand. But yeah, so a shout out to Lord Bag this week. I can't believe I'm shouting you out. But
Yeah,
years ago, when Ian came up to watch the kids one weekend, I forget where we were. We were in town, but he came in to watch the kids for a few hours while we were gone. And of course, he was like, "Well, what do I do?" And I said, "Well, I don't know, grab some chocolate or some candy." And so he shows up at the house, and the first thing he says to my two kids is, Megan Molly goes, "I brought candy and I got lots of it." And so, like, that was the first lines out of his mouth. Not, "Hey, how are you?" This is what I got. So this weekend, his gift and Cab's gift to my daughter who got married is lots of candy. So we got, like, if the kids come by for Halloween tonight, I'm telling you what, we're going to be able to load it
you're
up.
gonna be able to do it.
Yeah, so it's kind of funny. I've got lots. So Ian brought lots of candy again. And then the other person
can I tell you there's one more part of that I have to tell you. I said this, I was like, this is how I got away with it. I said, I got all this candy. I said, but one of you is allergic to something and I don't know what it is, so you can't eat it until your parents get home. So they just stared at the candy the whole time. Well, then as soon as you guys came on,
I know. I thought it wasn't a big deal, but it was sheer panic. Hey, so now that we talked about that, I got two more shout outs. It's a big week, but we got to get these people in. Our other shout out is for our old dear friend who's looking down with a big frown on us right now from having
Oh, FOMO.
Vin DeFrisco, who was brought up many times this weekend at the wedding. Vin goes way back with us, and unfortunately lost Vin last year. It would be 2 years, I guess, we've been without him. But just at an event with everybody there, Vin would have loved it. So he always used to have this frown, right, when it wasn't going his way. So we always say we could see Vin with the biggest frown because he's mad he's not here right now. So shout out to Vinny. We love Vinny. He was the best. And then finally, a shout out to the man that owns Nipton, California, Ross Mullison, owner of Spiegel World Entertainment, that has Absinthe, Atomic Saloon, Opium, Super Frico restaurant. Anyways, Ross is a circus man at heart, and he bought Nipton, and they're going to call it Circus Town, but this is the coolest little quaintest place right beside the railroad, just south of Vegas, basically between Prim, Nevada, state line, and Searchlight, Nevada. There's a road, and Nipton is in California. Anyways, Ross, thank you so much. And a shout out to Ross for even allowing or thinking of allowing a wedding to go on out at his new town that he bought. And just a great guy. And we talk about his shows from time to time on the pod, but he is a wonderful guy. And thank you so much. And that's all I got. Love to all.
Love to all.